Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
My name is Zach.
Craig 5 standing by.
And I'm Colin.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars, and especially tonight, for the last time, we talk about Episode 8 of Skeleton Crew, which is the finale. This is the post-show. Spoilers are ahead, so if you haven't watched Skeleton Crew, or if you want to be spoiled, listen to the podcast. So, guys, what did y'all think? And Josh has decided to join us out of nowhere.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
So, Zach, what are your thoughts?
Man, I thought it was pretty close to what I guess thought it would kind of be. Kind of have an ending where it could kind of go anywhere, but it could also kind of stay where it is. They get their air quotes happy ending. The kids are safe. The planet was, I guess you could say, rescued, but there's still a lot of plot that's open with the supervisor, air quotes, being down. And there's kind of a lot of new things that I think that people of and are going to implement into their daily lives. But I thought it was pretty good overall.
Craig, what do you think?
I thought it was a really solid episode. I'm glad we at least heard what his backstory was, at least somewhat. We didn't get a name from him still. That was
like 4 names, right?
Yeah, so that was a little frustrating. I would have liked to just get his real name. But, you know, it was interesting because it was like he was kind of redeemable, but not, because he wanted to enslave the whole planet, but he didn't really want to hurt anybody at the same time to do it. But obviously, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of up in the air about it. But I don't know, there was like a look that he gave at the end, and it was interesting, whatever that look was.
Yeah. Josh, what do you think about the series, the finale as a whole?
The series itself, I love. But if I'm gonna say what I think about that ending, I think it nods back to like a almost like a Treasure Planet feel, where it's kind of like I kind of, when you see the in the end credits and it's like all the scenes being told on his little like story pad, I was like, is this a nod to him telling, or Wim telling this story to someone else? And it cuts off from when like Wim and Jod don't see each other, so he has nothing to say after Jod is now like in jail or whatever. It's just him telling his story to maybe his child or something. That's what I got from the ending, because this reminds me a lot of, well, Treasure Island or Treasure Planet, and I think that's where that cutoff is. And I mean, it's definitely underwhelming because there's a lot more questions, but I think that's what keeps us in business, man. I mean, it's Star Wars, tons of more questions to ask.
All right, Colin, let us have it.
Oh man. Well, so and I was just talking to Hunter about this, just because it's like, I am very happy with how the show has been. With this episode, I felt like only a few of the questions were answered. That, you know, we've been asking all season. You know, it was nice for Jod to kind of give us, you know, a small version of a backstory. We know a Jedi, you know, a Jedi found him. It sounds like, I mean, again, I'm kind of taking everything that Jod says with a grain of salt. At this point, because if you don't know if you can actually like believe him or not, it did kind of sound like there was some truth in his voice, if that makes sense. Like I could hear like he was frustrated, where he was like, all right, you know, this happened. But I didn't like how there was no follow-up with the New Republic. I think that's something that kind of bummed me out. I think that would have been a great way to do a segue for Carson or Zeb to show up, just because of that would have been a segue to what's happening in the Mandalorian Grogu movie. I know that we didn't need that, but that would have been nice. And it also, in my opinion, wouldn't have felt forced just because of, at this point, Zeb is training New Republic pilots. So it would have made sense for him to show up. Carson is very involved, so it would have made sense for him to show up. So that was kind of disappointing not to see that. But other than that, I thought all of the overall story leading up to this was good. I just wish that we had more of our questions answered. I think that was just like a big bummer. The other thing is, now it's more confusing because a lot of us thought, they were talking about the Old Republic, but the supervisor said that the last message that they received was that all of the Jedi were traitors, which they were referring to Order 66. So now it's like, okay, interesting. So that, and when I was talking to Hunter thought that that they were always referring to like the Clone Wars era, but they were just referring it to as the Old Republic because now there is the New Republic, and that's what they call it. So things are kind of up in the air. I'm still processing it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm still processing it too, but I kind of agree with what Craig thinks about it. I thought it was solid. I liked it. It like met my expectations. We got to see a lot of money on screen, especially with scooter bike chasing. Of course, it is the second most expensive TV show in the history of mankind. So you were expected to see something, and we got to see X-wings, we got to see B-wings, we got to see a blockade runner, which was cool. I thought we were going to go inside the blockade runner, which kind of points to what Colin was saying. We didn't get that kind of continuation of seeing the New Republic, and I thought we're going to see someone, I thought maybe not a Zeb or someone like that, but I thought we were going to see New Republic characters and maybe some confirmation, some dialogue, something giving us something, kind of concluding the series in a way. But Skeleton Crew was still a little bit too disconnected for me. The connective tissue, I like to see, there wasn't enough of it per se. We all predicted that Kim was going to show up, and of course she was in the little like recap beforehand, and then we got her as a hologram. But I mean, yeah, we all kind of predicted that maybe the supervisor was going to be a droid, which that came to pass. But of course, I think all of us kind of hoped, like Anna in the chat said, that we wanted to have like a Wizard of Oz type thing and get a brand new character and actually see someone. And of course, we all learned previous episode that Stephen Fry was the voice. But overall, I thought it was okay. I thought it was, I thought it met expectations. Anyone? So this was kind of the end, so to speak, I think, for the TV show run that we got. So this is almost like an end of like a phase one, it felt like to me. I think everything after this is somewhat going to change. We're going to get Andor in April, but of course that's Tony Gilroy's thing, and he's kind of separate. But this, to me, I think kind of like almost demarcates like an ending of what we kind of got previously. What do you guys think about that? Do you think we're going to get more shows like this, or do you think we're possibly going to get more shows kind of connected to like main storyline, main characters? Even though they told us that the Skywalker saga ended, what do you think is next after Skeleton Crew? Are we going to get more stories like this? What do you think, Zach?
I think part of it could depend on the success for The Mandalorian and Grogu. If they get a ton of money from that movie, there might be less, I don't want to say opportunity, maybe less focus on pouring into TV shows like this. Not that they're out of the realm of possibility, but I think more of the focus could go into bigger movies like that. And I know we're kind of building up to the Dave Filoni like crossover Mandoverse movie, but I guess my initial thought is kind of could weigh in the balance of how The Mandalorian and Grogu does, but there's no season 2 confirmed or anything like that for this show, right? It's
the writers have said that they have a plan for season 2, but season 2 hasn't been greenlit yet.
okay.
My guess it probably will be, and they'll probably announce that at Star Wars Celebration, or they'll probably announce it within the next couple of weeks. But
I could see
yeah,
how that ties in more to everything else, because Mando season 1 kind of set him up, and then he was tied into more connective tissue with season 2, and I could see them doing the same thing with Skeleton Crew.
When did they announce Skeleton Crew? How long ago was that?
Boy,
Star Wars Celebration 2022. Yeah, because
Anaheim.
David and I were in the room for
that.
that.
A long time before between them announcing it and then it getting out. Like, it felt like they waited quite a while to push it out.
Well, we had 2022, and then we didn't get the trailer until London, which is what Josh, David, and I saw. And then the strike happened, and that kind of pushed things back for some projects. And then fast forward to 2024. So
we were supposed to get Skeleton Crew before the Acolyte, and we got it kind of flip flopped. Which, in hindsight, now it feels like maybe we should have gotten Skeleton Crew and then get Acolyte, because it feels like the show didn't get as many eyeballs as it probably should have, and I think this would have built better goodwill than the Acolyte did.
Yep. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So,
well, hopefully the word gets spread on it, because I think generally most people really enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me, because it's like, just because you might not like one show like Acolyte, it doesn't mean you wouldn't like a completely different show just because it's Star Wars. I don't get, you know what I mean? Like, people are so fickle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. This show,
just because you don't like She-Hulk, it doesn't mean you won't like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or something like that. You know what I mean?
I think the show is the most accessible, though. If you're coming off of like, I don't know much about Star Wars or anything about Star Wars, I think that this show is a great either starting point or just a show that you can watch with anyone and you don't have to know anything about Star Wars.
That's a good point.
And even with the way it ends, it's not like it ties into anything. I think that, we didn't get answers, but if you were looking at it from the point of perspective of maybe just someone who doesn't know anything, that wraps up everything and kind of gives a little bit of intrigue to other people, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the comments here, Jim on Facebook says, "What the heck was that ending? Generally positive show, but the ending episode was a major letdown." So, what do you think was the biggest letdown for the finale here? Just unanswered questions.
Yeah, that was my. I mean, because of we also didn't really learn the real point of the planet. I mean, we're like kind of leaving it to theories now. Like, we know that they made credits, right? Like, we know that, but was it for the Old Republic? Hunter was saying that it could have been for the Old Republic, referring to like the Clone Wars era, and then that's how they got credits there. But in my mind, I'm like, but then that would have been on the books. They would have known about that more. Someone would have figured it out, and the New Republic would have. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that whole thing was just, man. I don't know.
To me, it felt like they were making Old Republic credits because those are more valuable than anything newer. I mean, it's kind of like the gold standard, Right. And then, of course, you come up with $1 and everything else after that. You can't beat gold. I mean, you can trade gold for anything, and it seemed like Old Republic credits were basically like gold and at Fort Knox.
And we still don't know anything about who really created the supervisor and like who made the experimental planets, like, because basically these societies were experimental. Who's behind all that? Who created all that? And then with Jod too, Jod just he's just up there. We don't know if he's captured. We don't know if he ran off and did his own thing. Like, he's gone. Zap. Exactly. Who installed the supervisor? None of that was answered. They do leave it open for season 2, and I think that's great. I will say I do agree with Anna. I was hoping we might get a post-credit scene, like to see how it all ended. I agree with you with that because of the end credits were different than what we have seen before throughout the show, and it basically was Wim's stories, but just with the pictures and not the Arabic. That's basically what it was. And I was just bummed that we didn't get any follow-ups. I think it's cool that it's kind of on its own, where it's like it's in the Star Wars galaxy, but it's not like directly connected. But I think if Carson or Zeb, someone for the New Republic, showed up just so we could segue into the Mandalorian Grogu, I think that would have been perfect. I think that would have excited fans even more. I think it's cool that it's on its own, but at the same time, I think there were some missed opportunities.
I think it would have been really cool to see. I guess you see Wem looking at the X-Wings kind of taking off at the end. It would have been cool to see them kind of go back to, I don't know if town square is the right, I guess, way to describe like a group of, I don't know, just civilians gathering and the X-Wings land and maybe Carson gets out and says, hey, who's responsible for sending the message and everyone okay? And it would have been cool to see the kids get some sort of, man, what was the little badge that Carson gave to Cara Dune in Mando season 2? If they gave the kids something like that, like, hey, this is something, yeah, I don't know, or like a ring that the kid had in The Last Jedi, just something to use for a symbol of hope or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would have been cool to see them get something like that, and then maybe like, hey, if you ever need us, call. And it would have been cool. I don't know. I would have liked to see that tied up in an ending like that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them like going forward. Like, let's say we watch the Mandalorian Grogu, and then they're like, how is Thrawn or the Empire getting all this funding? And they're like, well, they could be getting it from the planet. And then they go there to investigate, and then we see women, all of them again, and they're explaining no, like they haven't been here or anything like that, and then that's how they could reintroduce the crew in some way. But yeah, no, I just feel like there were a lot of unanswered questions. There are some character arcs that I think that were fulfilled, and that Wim did see himself more in his father. I loved seeing his dad kind of act like a kid throughout this episode.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool. I loved how his dad had a George McFly moment of where like he curled up his fist.
Thought he was going to use the Force. I thought he was going to use the Force to like pull the lever.
Yeah. So I loved that Wim was able to see that side of his dad. I thought that was really cool, and that was a real character arc, because I think a big thing for parents is sometimes from my point of view is that some parents forget what it was like to be a kid, and I think this was a really cool way of kind of shedding light on that, but also showing that there is an inner child in all of us, no matter how old you are. And I think that was a moment for Wim's dad of, because you saw him having fun in a dangerous moment, but also like being a dad as well. So I think that was performed in a really great way for that character.
That bike chase was a lot of fun, especially when he made the jump. He was like, he was getting all into it.
Yeah,
sweet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think Jim Schumann on Facebook here has a good point. Supervisor was a major missed opportunity. It was self-contained, but that also means it really doesn't mean anything. They kind of led us on to think that the Supervisor was going to be a big reveal, I think, in the story.
Yeah.
And then when we didn't get it, we're like, oh, it's just a droid. It's like just a red light. And yeah, that didn't really...
Do we know anything about any of the other planets and how they're connected?
I don't think so.
This one? Yeah. There's a lot of open stuff.
I can't say that I remember seeing any interviews with the creators and the writers and the directors talking about the episodes like each week. It doesn't feel like there's been a lot of press for this show. Am I wrong?
No, there really hasn't. The first couple weeks, they did a lot of like little videos here and there. After that, it's
like we didn't hear anybody saying, "Oh, this is what we wanted to do for this episode," or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
some
I think
behind
that's
the scenes
another
stuff.
ask that we are wanting as Star Wars fans to have like a recap show and to talk to, or have just like either the director or the writer talk to
Yeah.
the audience and tell us, hey, look, this is what we're thinking. This is what happened. This is here's what
They
look forward to the next episode. But of course, the episodes are only like 30
Yeah.
to 40 minutes long. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
you talk about it too much, show too much, you're going to show most of the episode.
So they actually used to do that with the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and they also would do that with some of the episodes of the Bad Batch. All of the episodes would air, and then the next day they would drop, like, you know, all the actors and people talking about what happened in the episode, like to hype people up and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm going to go back to this comment here. Countdown to the Geek says, so Adatin is just a planet that makes credits for no one to use. I think our theory still kind of stands that this is all kind of a Palpatine long game thing that's going on, that this will eventually fund the First Order.
Somehow
Now,
Palpatine
hang on,
returned.
guys. When they went to the supervisor, I feel like the supervisor said something that almost sounded like something Palpatine would have said.
We'll watch you with great interest, or we
Yeah.
were watching
So
someone with
at
great
first,
interest.
I was like, wait a minute, is it possible that somehow Palpatine was already tied to what's going on there? You know, I know he was alive or whatever the heck he is. I don't know at this point.
Noah
So-
Richard on YouTube says, did anyone else think that Jada was going to break Wim's hand by pulling it back with the force?
Yes.
His bones are
Yeah.
breaking. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Wow.
I heard a little crackle, and I'm like, oh,
Yep.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Anna on Facebook says, I agree with Colin. I like seeing Wim's dad join the fight at the end.
Yeah.
And the Mandarian on YouTube says, I love that they deliberately left us with the question of what is the great work? We didn't get that answer,
yeah.
did we?
That made me think it was just making credits, like, but I'm sure it's much. Well, maybe the great work is more than what the adults realize.
Yeah.
That could be part of it too.
And the Mandarian on YouTube says, the last
Yes.
message for the public was the Jedi are traitors.
Yes.
crazy,
So that is what I was curious about, was like, and now that you mentioned like the theory about Palpatine being involved, that could, you know, make sense. But again, it's just like,
I mean,
who
it
came up
would.
with these?
It would make sense because the
Yeah.
First Order's got to get funded.
Right.
We don't have confirmation on that, though.
Right. Like
what do you mean?
who is the one that came up with these experimental communities? How did they get the funding? How are they making these credits? Like, I know they are, because it
Yes.
looked like they were
And
taking it from that gold like sphere that looks like it's close to the planet core. I like it just I just feel like there's so many questions that still need to be answered, and with the season 2 not being confirmed right now, and is just, oh man, I don't know. I just feel like things are kind of up in the air. I'm still processing things, but it's just like, man,
Yeah.
but
Jim
the
Schumann.
whole room gave a vibe of Palpatine in Episode 9, didn't it? Some of that, and then some of vintage Star Wars. It felt like a little bit of both. Like,
I
the
mean, yeah,
control
even with the
panel-
way the room is designed, yeah, for
the
sure.
control panel felt very like Episode 4 / Mandalorian Starship, Star Destroyer in the season finale, but also like something like Palpatine's in Episode 9.
Yeah.
That was the feeling that I got.
I was almost waiting for someone to like be sitting in a chair that was like being turned around.
That's what I think we were all expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like slightly reminiscent of Palpatine turning around in the throne room of the second Death Star. We all knew he was going to be there, but for this, I guess we kind of had more.
I
theories
wouldn't have
behind
been
that.
surprised if Palpatine was somehow there, like
Like a hologram?
floating in a tank or
Like
something,
a recording? Like almost
he-
like an AI thing?
or,
if
or
he
like
is, I feel like it'd
floating
be distant.
in a tank or something. I don't know. 'Cause
yeah. Well,
I mean, I just get the feeling that the money is probably tied to the First Order somehow.
yeah.
Maybe not, but
Well, yeah, no. I agree with you. I think that this story is going to be involved in some way, because I said on the pre-show that if Dave Filoni's involved, he's not just going to add something just to add it. Like, I don't think this is the last that we've seen of the story. I could see it being tied into the Mandalorian Grogu movie, being like, how are they getting the funding? Like, I could just see someone saying that, and then some characters go on a side mission, and it ends up being the planet, and then they talk to Wim's dad, and some of the kids are there, and they kind of explain their adventure there, and Jod is held up or something, and then that kind of hints at a later season 2 story. So I could definitely see them going back to those characters and finishing and getting more questions.
Maybe in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, they go to that planet for something.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it like, I don't think this is the last that we've seen of these characters and story and everything. I think we will go back to it again. It's just going to be a matter of time. Most likely in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, that just makes the most sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. Just not seeing any. And it's not that I was hoping to see cameos. It was more of like, it made sense. Like, if Tava Carson or Zeb showed up, that wouldn't have been forced. That would have fit perfect into the story, because those characters are directly with the New Republic. It's not like Phil Coulson showing up everywhere. Like, this is directly involved. So it would have been a perfect opportunity. But
do you think there was like a rewrite?
I think maybe they didn't want to take away from what the kids were doing by bringing in Zeb. And that's the only thing I could think is, like, if Zeb comes in, everybody's going to be excited about Zeb, but then kind of takes away from the story that these kids went through this whole season, and, you know, learning to shoot the cannon and learning to fly the ship and all that stuff. And we didn't even talk about 33 being back.
Yeah. KB was able to hotwire the ship.
Yeah.
Keep the ship from crashing. KB's awesome.
Yeah.
Also, did you guys notice the moon at the very end? A very Earth-like moon. And I was starting to think, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, Richard says, perhaps the body of the supervisor held a copy of Palpatine's conscience. Kind of like the Horcruxes in Harry Potter.
We're kind of getting into the whole Snoke story, because that's exactly what Palpatine did with Snoke. He just put his Force essence into Snoke. That's basically what all those clones were. So to do that with a droid, I mean, he technically the storyline from Star Wars Battlefront 2, that campaign is canon, and he did that where it was like an AI version of himself, of where he was giving orders to what was left of the Imperial like army and everything. So again, this could add to it. I could see the whole Palpatine thing. It just, so many unanswered questions. I don't know. No.
What did you guys think about Jod's like story he told about the Jedi that he met, the female Jedi?
I think he was telling the truth.
Yeah, I definitely think he's telling the truth.
He had no reason to lie there.
Yeah,
it doesn't there's no reason to make that up, right? Either way, like why lie? It doesn't get him out of trouble. It doesn't get anything. It's just he's just kind of explaining like why maybe he's so ruthless, even though he maybe doesn't want to hurt people. He still just wants money and is greedy.
Right.
I think it's a pretty it's a nice generic way to talk about Order 66 without it being like deliberately just being like, oh, I was a Padawan and da-da-da-da-da, and making it kind of confusing for someone who doesn't understand, versus this person found me, they thought I had potential, and then those people hunted them down and killed them. So I was like, that's a good way of putting it for someone who doesn't know much about Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I would like more into his backstory for sure. It kind of just leaves a lot open. I feel like even if we didn't get a cameo, the characters in this didn't get a satisfying conclusion, I believe. And that's where I'm stuck at this point, where I'm kind of like,
which characters did you not feel like because I thought they had they're kids. Like what's going to be their
they all
What would-
get their kind of, what do you call it, like character arc completed. Awesome. But I think it's
Yeah.
just kind of like this little bit where we can just kind of see what's going to come of this. I would have liked. It's like I want to see what's going to happen to the planet. Everyone kind of like looks to the stars and it's like, oh wow, we've never seen this before. It's like, are people going to travel off of this? Are they going to make something of this? Like now that their whole like god of this planet is dead now, it's like, oh okay, now we have free will to do whatever we want. We don't have to be locked into jobs anymore. I kind of want to.
I kind of like that it's open ended. I don't really need to see what's going to happen next. For me,
But like
I mean,
Wim's
because
one.
I think there could be a sequel in a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
But the only thing I'm thinking is if the numbers aren't good, they might not do it, even though the audience reception was good.
Mhm.
It's
just such an
the
expensive
numbers got to
show.
pick up on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't do Acolyte because of I mean, supposedly, but then it was streaming really high. I don't know.
Yeah. After it's said and done, yeah, people binge the whole
Yeah.
series, marathoned it. Might happen with Skeleton Crew. I mean, I think there's a lot of goodwill with Skeleton Crew. And hopefully if the Lucasfilm Disney sees that people are marathoning this and absorbing it, and there's a big reception possibly in Japan in April.
They got to bring out some more merchandise for us to buy. There's no merchandise.
There's a little bit, but I don't think there's a lot in stores.
Not much. But
yeah, I think you had to go to like HasbroPulse.com.
They have some figures, some Black Series figures, and I think one vintage collection figure.
Yeah, Lego, they have the Onyx Cinder, which Colin has.
Yeah, I was really tempted just to, just throw it on the ground.
Now they need to release the updated Lego set. That'd be cool.
That's exactly what they're gonna do. They are, and then that will come with SM33, and then it will come with like Brutus and the claw and everything, and we're just gonna be like, okay, great. Like, man,
Colin is bitter. Colin is Last Jedi bitter.
Whoa now. No, I'm just reliving when I built the Lego Razor Crest and that episode came out and it got blown up, and then I was just like, come on, man. I was like, come on. But yeah,
every time you buy something, man, I mean, we know the curse that you have.
Yes. Yeah. I just feel like every single ship that like comes out now, I'm going to be very hesitant to buy it.
Even a character.
Yeah. I swear, if you are referring to my blue boy, I swear he's not dead.
He's not dead.
Yeah, speaking of not dead.
I can't have Colin break down on the show by believing he's dead.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. I know it's fake, but thank you.
We didn't see him at work that night.
He wasn't. I scanned that scene, bro. There is no shade of blue. There is no blue like of the same color of Max Rebo. There's no shade of blue in any of those shots. I'm just saying.
He wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
He wasn't there, Colin. It's okay. It's okay. He's okay.
Oh man. Oh boy. Yeah. No, going back to the story with like Jod of him, talking about his past. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with it, because we kind of heard about Kanan's story, and then like kind of throughout Rebels, and then they had the comic, and then they redacted it and did the beginning of the Bad Batch as like his origin story of Order 66 and all that stuff. With Jod, I could see them making a book and them talking about it there, but I would rather see that in a TV show. And they also are doing that with the Acolyte, of where there's a lot of these characters that were introduced, and then their like origin stories and stuff like that were put into a comic book or a future novel that's coming out at some point this year. So I really hope that we get the opportunity to see young Jod on screen, or just even a show about Jod. I think that would be really cool. And me hoping that Hondo shows up, have Hondo be like his mentor into the pirate world. And then that's like the real gritty kind of like, because just give the people what they want. Give us Hondo Onaka. We've been asking for it for years. Like, honestly, man, just do it. We already saw the same type of ship that he has over on Smuggler's Run in episode 3, I believe. So it's of Skeleton Crew. Just do it. It's right
Like a
there.
toonie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
smell
really
the
wonder
pro-
what their thinking is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, are they thinking maybe let's stay away from that, like, connected
But
tissue?
why?
I know a lot of people complain about it and they call it like member berries or whatever, but if it is justified, it's fine. We want to
Yes.
see characters that we've seen before, that we know, that we love. I mean,
Hondo
just
was the
makes
perfect
sense.
character. He's the perfect character for the show. The show was about pirates. Like, it was perfect. I really thought he was going to show up in the Book of Boba Fett just because of his ties with Boba Fett. Like, that also would have been perfect, and they didn't do it, and I don't know why. Just like Jim Cummings loves voicing that character. He loves it. Why
And
on
Jim
earth
Cummings
would
is
you
too
not
expensive? Who knows?
seeing like, and people love his appearance over at Smuggler's Run. It's fantastic. So it's just like, just do it. He's such a phenomenal character. Dave Filoni created him for a reason. Like, I just don't. I'm really curious when he's gonna show up. I'm gonna laugh if because my hunch is that they're gonna announce a live action Clone Wars series with Ewan and Hayden at Star Celebration. If Hondo shows up in that, I'm gonna be like, okay, all right, fine, that's fine. But having a pirate show and not having Hondo in it, I mean, come on, that's a wasted opportunity. Just saying.
I know, but it wasn't really a pirate show as much of it was like a show about these kids. Sure, there were pirates in it, but it wasn't centered around pirates. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't about the pirates crew. It was about the skeleton crew.
It was very pirate centric.
Yeah,
I mean, there was. I'm not saying there wasn't pirates. There was obviously pirates, but
okay. Can you watch Treasure Planet now? You like said that you were gonna wait until the end of the show.
I'll watch.
Yes. Go and watch Treasure Planet and tell me that half of the plot of the show is not very close to that movie, because it is.
All right, so Adam Locke on YouTube says, so is Jod still on that Atten? Just chilling in the tower while they all go back to their great work? Yeah, what happens with Jod?
Yeah, I feel like that. Well, I thought that moment of where Wim turns around and is like, Jod, he's like, no, Jod, come with us. I thought that was weird because, no joke, 30 seconds before, Jod was about to kill his dad. So I was just like, wait, what? No, how do you have an emotional attachment to him? Like, I get you had that great moment on the ship of where you quoted Qui-Gon Jinn, but at the same time, it's just like, he was about to murder your dad. Like, he had a lightsaber pointed to his throat.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a trauma bond.
Yeah. I mean, and I get seeing the greatness in people. I relate to Wim a lot because I was very similar as a kid, and in some ways I do relate to him of seeing the good in people, even though that the signs are directly in front of you that they're not. And it's just, you need to with Wim, I think because he read all these stories about the Jedi and stuff, I think that's like the way that he looks at life, is he's seeing it through what a Jedi would, because they do see the worst. I mean, they do see the best in the worst people. And I think that was his take from it, is just like, listen, you messed up. I get it, but there's still good in you. Come back. And that's where, like, the Star Wars tie-in is, because, you know, Luke found the worst. I mean, man, I'm really messing this up. He found the best in one of the worst people in the galaxy, Darth Vader, and he brought him back. So it's just like Wim was trying to do that with Jod, and Jod at this point, you know, who knows? Because, you know, Jod is a very mysterious character, and I like it. But I think there was some truth to what he was saying about the Jedi. And I think there was also truth about saying, I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I want you to all work for me. I think he wants people to see his point of view, but he's going to that measure in a very drastic way of trying to have people see his way. And maybe because he didn't finish his Jedi training and he grew up being on the run and with pirates and all this stuff, that was, the way that he was taught. So he doesn't know any better. He is conflicted. He's dealing with that. And you see that a lot in this last performance in this episode.
Besides him killing Brutus, I thought that he was going to have a moment where like Wim goes and I don't know, or one of them goes to like just pull it down and they realize like, you're not going to hurt any of us. It's not like you would kill any of us. I thought that's kind of where it would have been. But the whole Brutus scene was kind of like in the back of my mind, like, yeah, he actually would kill one of these kids if he had to.
Yeah. I think the last episode was like very like, okay, whoa, because of he was like, yeah, I've seen all your parents' faces. If you guys mess up, I'm gonna kill him. And I was like, whoa. I was like, dang, bro, dang. So yeah.
He could have done it in this episode at any time if he really wanted.
It's like 4 attempts of that. I was like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It kind of made you like kind of question the character, and honestly, that's what that's what the kids were doing like this entire thing. Like, hey, can we trust him? As the audience, we were like, oh, he's a Jedi. He's not a Jedi. Like, but he said this, but he did this bad thing. And I love how us as an audience were going through the exact same thing that the kids were, because of sometimes you don't get that with certain shows where like exactly who a character is and what their intentions are. With Jod, it was a very like up and down situation because if he would do a good thing, he would do a bad thing. Is he actually with the kids? Then you get to the second to last episode and he's threatened to kill their parents, and you're just like, okay,
yeah.
So it's just like, I love that part of the storytelling where as an audience member, you weren't predicting what was going to happen. You were with the kids waiting to see what was going to happen. I really enjoyed that.
So what would you guys give this episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oof.
Ooh, it's doing that thing where every Star Wars just has to leave giant unanswered questions for some reason.
Yeah. Somehow Palpatine returned.
But of the shows that I've definitely seen of the Star Wars shows, I'm going to give it a solid, like, of the episode itself, 7.5 or 8. I'm hovering around there. It's just because there was a lot of build up to this episode, and I don't think that it paid off in the ways that we would have hoped.
I'm in the same boat. I think word for word, I agree.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to rewatch the show. Like the entire show again, and then I'm going to be able to get my full rating for it. But right now, I'm probably going to give the show a solid 8. I think that's like
I think it has one of the strongest openings, though.
Yes.
Talking about the episode or the show overall?
The episode itself for me is like a 7. I would say 7.5. Show overall, I would say, I don't know. I really liked what it did for just being its own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's super, super valuable.
Yeah. The other thing is, in ways you can compare this to, Acolyte, because Acolyte was kind of in the same boat because it took place 200 years before the events of like the major Star Wars events. And I didn't really have any big, character tie-ins or plot tie-ins, except the very end where Plagueis shows up for 5 seconds and then Yoda shows up for 5 seconds. But other than that, like it didn't really have like any major points. You could still watch Star Wars, the original stuff and prequels and all that without watching Acolyte, and it's still doing it. You could still do that with Skeleton Crew as well.
I think Skeleton Crew is a little bit easier to digest for people than
Absolutely
Acolyte is. I would compare this. I think the opposite of this is Ahsoka, where you come into Ahsoka, and this is a show where it values how much previous knowledge you actually have to going into it, and elevates the show into being something completely different. versus this where like us kind of fans where we're like more Star Wars, but we'd love some connections and answers. But if you come into it not knowing much about Star Wars, this is perfect for you.
Well said.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think the kids out there like are gonna like the show? I know my daughter does. She's 6.
Yeah.
And she looks forward to it. She sits down and she watches the episodes and she really gets into it, like the characters, and she remembers their names, and she's like,
That's really cool.
So I think it's been a good show for her. So it's good because Disney needs to get kids excited about Star Wars.
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, I think I think the story was cool because of like, as much as I would have loved, Carson or Zeb, or Hondo even to show up. I think it was nice that this was its own thing. As much as I would have loved it to tie into the larger story that's being created, I think it is cool that it does exist. But I think there will be a payoff. I definitely think that there will be a payoff where we'll go back to this planet and it will tie into the larger story. I don't think this is the last that we just see it where, until like season 2. I think we will get a tie-in in some way because Dave Filoni was part of this project and he just doesn't add something to add something. Everything is connected more than we think. But yeah, right now a solid 8. And I'm also seeing it from a kid's perspective. Like, I feel like I would have, like, if like I would see this like on, like, on Tuesday nights as a kid, like before I would go to bed, I know I wouldn't be able to sleep. I would be losing sleep all night just thinking about of the next episode for next week. And it's just so cool that they just did they just crushed that feeling of where you are watching something different, but it's got that Star Wars vibe to it. And I think they crushed it. I think they really have something here. And I think they're going to keep doing stuff like this. Hopefully, I really hope that this episode, that this show sends a message of that we need more things like this happening in the Star Wars universe.
But, they tried to do something like that with the Acolyte and people hated it. Something different.
Yes, but not at this level. That was a totally different thing. That was the beginning of something that they were hoping to like continue on and on and on and on, leading up. And Plagueis is a very fine example of that. They were planning on continuing that story where it would lead up to the events of Phantom Menace because of Plagueis was involved. And in my opinion, I think season 2 would have been great. I think season 3 would have been great because that would have been slowly introducing why Plagueis, did what he did, getting Palpatine into his life and then passing that on and all that stuff because of the whole story of Plagueis. I really hope we see that on screen someday soon.
That would have been incredible.
Yeah,
you give me a season 2 of Acolyte centered around the Stranger and Plagueis.
Yeah,
I'd be thrilled. I honestly could care less about May or Osha. I think I liked Osha until the end when she killed. Oh my gosh, what's his name?
Soul.
Yeah, Soul. And then I was just like, that's it. I hate her.
So okay, so if they gave us an option as fans. Do you want a season 2 of The Acolyte or do you want a season 2 of Skeleton Crew? Which one would you choose right now?
Depends upon if it's around Plagueis and the Stranger, I'm taking that. But I don't care about May. I don't care about Osha. I want to see Plagueis.
I am with Craig on that. I think they could, as much as I love the Skeleton Crew, I think that story could be tied into some of the other shows like The Mandalorian or Ahsoka in some capacity. I think they definitely could do that. With Acolyte, you really can't do that. You really can't introduce the shows back unless you do a continuation or you do a spinoff with Plagueis and Chimere. So I think if they did Acolyte season 2, it would to be mainly focused on that story of Plagueis, of Chimere, going forward, because Plagueis is such a big character, and if you haven't read the book, read the book. It's fantastic. It's happening mostly during the events of the Phantom Menace, and the way that Palpatine, kind of takes over is just crazy. So read the book if you haven't. Technically, it's not canon, but to me, it's canon in my head. But I would definitely have season 2 of Acolyte if it ended up being a Plagueis and
honestly,
Chimera
if
storyline.
there was one Lucas project, if I could get George on something, I think I would like to see George have a show around Plagueis, since he created Plagueis. I want to know what he thought of how the training went with Plagueis and Palpatine. So that to me would be awesome if we could get George back on something like that.
Yeah.
Or George could just simply give a story and then create the screenplay around it. I mean, that would be terrific story by George Lucas,
I think Skeleton Crew is contained enough to just be its own season. And
yes.
I feel like it still has, there's open ending stuff, but I think it's just that we weren't satisfied with it, versus where you go to the Acolyte and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's definitely parts that I really want to see what happens next, because we know what comes next, but not everything. You want to see the details of it. This is a lot that you could make a show around, versus Skeleton Crew. It's like, okay, we're gonna have some characters pop up, which I think I agree with you on what Colin said, where it's like, I think that these characters can pop up in other things, but I don't really want a whole dedicated another season to it.
Right. Just because it's just like if they made Goonies 2, it would just feel like the same thing, but different, if that makes sense. And with Skeleton Crew, it could be like, wait, and I'm not saying that this is what they would do, but they would be like, wow, there's another ship here. This is interesting. And then I could just see them just. I really enjoyed the show, and I trust the writers that if they do a season 2, that it wouldn't be the same thing. It would make sense. Because the show was great, but I think Acolyte, I don't like how the creator of Acolyte said, don't worry, this show is not ending on a cliffhanger. This show is going to leave open-ended. She pretty much said that. And then you had Yoda and you had Plagueis show up. And then you had the mystery of Chimera being a Jedi beforehand, and then not exploring that at all. And then hinting at corruption in the Senate, which, what we see later on leading into the Phantom Menace, the ending was, oh man. Yeah. So I want to see that. I really, really want to see that, because of that just, adds more of the stepping stones into what we see in the prequels. And that would just be so cool with Skeleton Crew, because it's its own thing. I think it can just keep being its own thing, and then characters and storylines can show up in other different projects. I think that would be perfect.
Noah Richter on YouTube asked, if Skeleton Crew gets a second season, how soon do you think it'll be before we see at Akron again?
Interesting.
I think if we see a season 2, we will see at Akron.
Yeah. You are talking about the planet of where they found where they had the two groups fighting against each other.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Were they all mining for the gold? Were they all doing a separate thing for the
Right.
No. It's
that is a big question. Who came up with this entire experimental society? Was it Palpatine? Was it something that the Republic knew about? But here's the thing, though. Here's my plot hole for that theory. If they knew that, if the Republic knew about that, then why were they making deals with the Trade Federation and the banking clan if they had all of these credits? Why on earth would they be doing that? That doesn't make sense to me. Unless Palpatine was behind the whole thing and he kept it to himself. That's the only way that I can make it make sense. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but yeah.
Adam Mock on YouTube says, I'm from Ohio. You don't know how to see at Akron again. Terrible city is the armpit of at Cleveland.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Dang.
Oh man.
Jeez.
I think I would give this episode a solid 8 on my first viewing. Overall, I was fairly
I would
pleased
give it
with,
an 8.
Yeah.
pleased with the
Theory
wrap
here.
up.
Yeah. Theory here from the Josh 21. I do recall one of the droids saying there was 1,300 vaults with money, or maybe more than just money, perhaps confiscated lightsabers or old Star Wars tech.
Interesting.
Oh.
That would be something to build off of on future seasons or
Yeah.
movies, or I don't know. Maybe it seems like this Mando Grogu movie is going to be like a bounty hunter mission type thing.
Yeah.
Maybe this planet is like the end game for Mando. Maybe he like ends up rich. I don't know. Who knows? They set something up for something future, so
Yeah.
they have that at their disposal now.
Yeah, because going back to, I think the last episode, I was like, if they take down the barrier, that planet is going to be up for grabs. People are going to find out about that, and people are going to try and rob that planet because there is enough to create like more than like anything of like armies and stuff. Maybe this is what Palpatine uses to like really fund more of the Star Destroyers over in Exegol. Even though at this point in the timeline, he's already got that fleet being made, but maybe he runs out of money and then he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this. I don't know. But that's going to be a big thing, is like people could definitely try and go over there. I feel like if they had enough people trying to go in, they could easily break into all those vaults. They are going to need more security than ever. So I'm just curious of what's going to happen with that storyline. Because that's a lot of credits.
Yeah, because
It is.
So the New Republic essentially did not know about all this stuff on Ad Atten.
Yeah.
So now that they are going to know, how did they either like lose control of it, or how did they just like keep it still hidden? You know, I mean, I think that's the big question now.
Well, if they learn about a planet, does it mean that they have to control it? Right? Like there were neutral systems in the prequel era Republic, I guess you could say, that kind of didn't have anything to do with that type of stuff. But Aden is pretty defenseless, I guess.
Yeah.
So
and and we know there's already some semi corruption in the New Republic as well. They are under the, and I could see them kind of leaving it defenseless in a way, because at this point they don't believe that Thrawn is back, that there is real no threat. So they could, just be like, we'll leave some protection, but at the same time, we don't need to worry about it. It's just going to be pirates and some other people, because of, not until just before the events of Force Awakens, they realize before it's too late that the First Order is like, a big thing. So they're going to have to come up with something, because I can easily see them just, going to that planet. I can see Thrawn showing up and be like, hey, we need credits. And they're like, well, there's this planet that has that. And they're like, okay, we need funding. Let's just go over there. And they just blow it up. Just take everyone out, take all the credits and leave. And then that brings in like the Mandalorian and Grogu for investigation. And I don't know.
It almost feels like the New Republic would just ship everyone off of those planets and then either reinstitute the barrier, make it look like a gas giant, and have that natural kind of like original defense, and just kind of like leave it be. Because unless the pirates got communication out to other pirates that, hey, look, this is where it's at. But then again, that defense was pretty potent. So, they got to do something with it. That's too much like old Republic credits there to just have it lying around in the galaxy. It's,
Aliens.
yeah, it'll disrupt the economy like crazy.
Yeah.
No, Richard on YouTube says when that episode first aired, it felt like each of the planets were similar to the different vaults in the Fallout universe. Perhaps each planet played a different role in the great works. Yeah, probably. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
The Mandarian on YouTube says someone did the rough math and it was about 241 trillion credits, not including printed values.
That's
Wow.
insane. Yeah.
Trillion.
Where do you think Palpatine got all the funding for that clone army?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I could
His
see
allowance.
Palpatine being involved in some way. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say he like got an allowance. Like, yeah.
Like you did.
Okay. Jeez, man.
The
Oh,
Josh
boy.
31 on YouTube says, I mean, we are getting a 25,000 year gap movie soon to come, directed and written by James Mangold. Would be interesting to see what the old tech at the time would be. Blueprints to the first lightsaber, and we've spoken about that on previous podcasts. It's
Yep.
like, are we even going to have lightsabers? Are they going to do the lightsaber thing? Are we just going to see like force pushes and pulls and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, how like rudimentary are they going to go?
Hmm.
It feels
They-
like to do a Star Wars film like that, you need lightsabers.
Yeah.
You need a space battle. I mean, there's a certain way to do a Star Wars film.
What was the quote that you sent me like a week ago? It was from James Mangold.
He said he wasn't going to put. I'm paraphrasing here, but he was not going to concentrate too much on the lore of Star Wars.
And that scares
which
me.
It's not a great thing to say.
No, it's not. That's kind of terrifying. What?
Neither did Andor.
Right. But this is different though, because this is like the origin story of the Force. This is what's going to separate this is going to explain why the light side, is the light side. Maybe it was black, it was black and white, and how the dark side like became to be. It is described as a very biblical film of the Force of how it was originated. And
I hope it's something like more like Empire Strikes Back with like Yoda on Dagobah kind of feel to it.
I think that would be great. I don't like the quote that he said about, where they don't want to focus on the lore. I think that's kind of scary. Just because of the
This is a lore movie.
right.
Yeah, it should be all about the lore. This is how the lore started.
Yes.
Like boring is boring.
Exactly. The Force is like the heart of Star Wars. It is what binds the galaxy together. And then you're gonna say we're not gonna focus on the lore.
The Force
That's
was actually
scary
a droid
to me.
named Bob.
Oh God, no! No. It's kind of scary when like things are said like that. Just because of as soon as that was announced, and I've been very vocal about it, but there's like, to me, if I was directing it, there'd be a lot of pressure. Just because of this is kind of the origin story of the Force, and this is what binds the galaxy together. This is what really puts all the stories together. So it's just like if this is the beginning, you've gotta, you kind of gotta focus on the lore, because it's what it's based on. So if you're gonna change, like I could see watching it and then something contradicts something else from like, way further in the future in the timeline, and it's gonna be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's essentially saying, I'm going to make a Star Wars film. There's not going to be lightsabers. There's not going to be droids. There's not going to be ships. There's not going to be space battle. There's not going to be Jedi. There's not going to be Sith. But I'm going to make a Star Wars film.
He didn't say that though, right?
That's essentially what it comes off as.
Okay.
Like, it's going to be something that's like he's going to dream up. That it's just going to be his. He's going to Ryan Johnson it. Do what makes him happy and not what makes the fans happy.
Right. And
So the
I don't
investment
know if they want to go down that rabbit hole again. So
that would damage Star Wars a whole lot.
Mm.
The investment group on YouTube says the show should have been 16 episodes before. They left too much on the table, too many good characters to dive into. But if there's a second season, that will fix the barrier, fix the supervisor.
Well, yeah, but now people will kind of know like the key to it. I mean, the other thing is that I kind of was wondering about is, why didn't they shoot some of the things down? Like why didn't they shoot? Like, how they pass through, and then you have the barriers up and it does lightning. Why don't they shoot those like of those barriers down unless they have some shielding? But I didn't see any shielding on there. It could be like, a clear ray shield. That was the other thing too, is why didn't Jod, like, as soon as they turn things back on, why didn't Jod just shoot the control panel? Because, if we're using Star Wars logic, that most of the time turns things off. So, yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm kind of thinking he
Power
had the whole
returned
thought
at the very
process.
end.
What?
The power returned at the very end.
Yes, because they like turned on. I mean, because they pulled the switch, but also not only that though. Wim's dad was able to turn the power on from a different panel. Why didn't and then that's how they were able to get the ship off the ground and all that stuff. Why didn't Jod just shoot that panel? Because that would have just reversed what he did of what his dad did.
I think the answer is Jod was trying to basically become like the czar of that world. He was trying to become the supervisor, so he didn't want to break anything else any more than what he really needed to. I think that's kind of what
I like that explanation. That's good.
Yeah.
See, this is why you don't put logic into Star Wars. Because then you're introduced to that, and it's like, okay, yep. So good. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have another comment on YouTube here from, I think it's pronounced Jao Pedro. The power return at the very end. Wonder what Jod was thinking when watching the ship fall. I'm wondering that too, what his thought process was. It's like, what is his next move? What's his end game really at that point? I mean, he kind of disappeared at the end, so his character's still alive. I wonder if Jude Law, the actor, loved his experience, loves Star Wars, wants to come back, kind of a lot like Felicity Jones and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
The Mandarian on YouTube says having Kamino make a galactic clone army is one of the most unethical things in Star Wars, even cloning and war ethics aside. I agree.
Yeah.
Countdown to the Geeks says overall Skeleton Crew was enjoyable, but the finale ending was too abrupt to ignore. 2 minutes of wrapping things up or showing how they would arrest Force using Jod would have gone a long way. But then again, I mean, that's kind of like, I think the creators, the writers saying, hey, look, let's do a season 2. We can wrap it up there or continue the story. It's like,
we know they do have the story. Yeah. We know they have the story, and the plot planned, and they already said that it wouldn't take place directly after. Some time will have passed. And then they will continue from there. But the question is, what would be the plot? Would they just go back to their normal lives of being like, okay, we're just going to rebuild the barrier and just ignore the whole attack from the pirates and just go back to our normal lives? Or would they adapt, and would they become part of the new of the new Republic? Who would be in charge of that planet? Would they, and this is where the weird Star Wars politics comes in, but who would be the new senator of the planet? Who would so that might be part of the plot for the second season. But I just don't want it to be, essentially wait, here's a different treasure we didn't know about. Where does this take us? They would have to adapt to the times. And then maybe at this point, maybe after the of the Mandalorian Grogu movie, maybe Thrawn, rises to power for a second. And then maybe that show is under the influence of the reborn empire, for a quick second. And then they get defeated in that Avenger style movie they're making. And then the First Order later comes along. So I don't know. I'm just thinking ahead, but yeah.
Noah Richard on YouTube says, random question, boys. Do we know if Mon Mothma dies on Hosnian Prime in The Force Awakens? I don't think so.
We don't know her fate.
Mon Mothma died before then.
Yes. We don't know her fate just yet. Yeah.
Adam Locko's YouTube says just 8 1-hour episodes would have done the trick, then no second season necessary. Yeah, it's weird. Are they looking? Is Disney looking so far ahead? We want to put these in syndication, so we need to be able to have commercials in the future stuck between segments of these shows and have them to be an hour long, but with commercials or something. I don't know. The Josh21 on YouTube says we're getting our first look at Yoda's planet at last in maybe Mangold's film, or hopefully in the Mando Grogu film, origin of it all, the lore of it all. I still feel like the Yoda stuff, like answers about his like species and his origin, I think they're gonna just keep that a secret still. I don't think they're gonna reveal any of that. But if they did, I mean, logically speaking, yeah, if they're gonna concentrate more on Grogu in this next film, The Mandalorian Grogu, you would think they would want to give us something, but the more and more people talk about it and all these like different little leaks come out, it makes it feel like it's just going to be like a elongated Mandalorian episode, so to speak, and they're not really going to concentrate on backstory so much. The Mandarian on YouTube says in the Disney acquisition contract, it says that they are never allowed to say what Yoda's race is or where he is from. Yeah, there you go. I think that was like George Lucas saying that.
Yeah.
No Richard on YouTube says, did anyone else think Jod was pulling his punches? It seemed like every shot just narrowly missed. Even the one where Fern dove for the lever, it felt like he could have hit her if she wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah. I think that, of the line that he says later on of where he's like, I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I think there were multiple meanings to what he was saying, like, in ways he probably doesn't want to really hurt anyone, like, from a good person point of view, but also he's doing it for selfish reasons as well, because he wants everything to be fine. And I mean, so then the people can work for him, and then he can be the new ruler of the planet.
And also this, you can't punch children on Disney from Adam. The Mandarin says that Noah, yes, he looked like he was going to cry as KB went down as well. That's interesting, man. A pirate with a real heart. Mariana Arnold says that Adam, that's what I was hoping we'd get an answer to in the end credits, but then I realized it was Wim's Jedi book. Yeah, I thought about that too. Actually, I thought we're gonna see Jod's kind of backstory told in pictures in a way, but yeah, it was Wim's iPad.
Yeah. I will say seeing the B-wings on screen in live action again was pretty cool. And
lasers like that.
Yes, and we haven't seen that since Star Wars Rebels, so I really like how we were able to see that in live action. I thought that was pretty
really cool. That was a good call out. Yeah, I forgot about that, but when I was watching, I was like, "Oh, that was nice." I don't remember seeing those ships in action like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got the blockade runner at the end, and it was like, "Oh wow!"
Right.
That kind of led us on too to think. It led me on to think, okay, we're going to see some New Republic stuff, maybe a Mon Mothma appearance.
Yep, and the camera panned up, and it was like, oh no!
Do you think there could have been like a rewrite or something where they couldn't put something in there? Like there was going to be something, whether it was like a Cara Dune thing or like Rangers of the New Republic kind of thing?
Yeah, that's always a possibility, because I know the story group and Filoni will like step in and be like, you can't show that because that person's not alive, or we're going to save that for something else.
Because who knows? Those X-Wing pilots or could be someone in the future who is like very important to something.
Yeah. Well, so
like, oh yeah.
I mean, again, I think Zeb would have been a really good person to, have just even make a cameo. I'm still not getting over the fact that he didn't even make a small cameo in Ahsoka. Like, how could he not be part of the team that was going over to the planet to like save Ahsoka and Sabine? Like, how could he not be part of that team?
That
like, family comes first for that entire crew. So that just blew my mind.
That was to me the big, like huge oversight in that show. Like,
yes, like
how was Zeb not there for that?
Right. And I know it's just a cameo, but at the same time, everything that they went through in Star Wars Rebels, I mean, come on. But in this, it would have been a perfect cameo for him to show up just because he's training New Republic pilots at this point. So these could have been the pilots that he's been training, that they've been talking about. That would have been awesome. That would have been perfect way. And then that would have been a segue to his, his part in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which we know he's going to be a part of. So, yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels at this point that Zeb was almost like a proof of concept or something.
Yeah,
I
just feel like it was just
put up a believable Zeb up on screen and how people would react to it and be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it does work, but it costs a lot of money. So the next time we see him, it's probably going to be in a film.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, Richard says,
look, if you got a team, you got to have the character there. You know what I mean? It might cost you a little bit of money, but the payoff just to see him in live action like that, you're going to make it back in action figures.
Yeah. I'm with you, Craig. I think having Zeb not in Ahsoka was a really big missed opportunity. Like, of even just to hear his voice over like the over the X-wing comms, like of all the wings checking in, that would have been perfect. I would have been fine with that. I would have been bummed that we didn't see his on-screen appearance, but I still would have been, content with that, because he would have been there for Hera. He would have been there for Sabine and Ahsoka. Him not being there because he's training other people, I feel like, if someone's going to figure something out and rebel, it would be him, because he is one of the OG, crew. So it's just, I don't know. I know I'm getting off topic, but Zeb being in here would have made sense. Taylor Carson would have made sense. And I don't think those would have been forced cameos. But if their whole point of this was to say, hey, the galaxy is larger than this overall story, then they have succeeded in that. And I think that is a great way to look at it. I still think it is a missed opportunity not to have those characters in there.
Well, did you guys talk about the recasting of Balin too?
Yeah, we did a whole podcast episode for it. Yeah.
I think it was a good choice.
Oh, great choice! A choice no one even brought up on the podcast or anywhere else.
I mean,
I don't think anyone was even thinking about recasting that character. Like, I mean, for a while there, Ray Stevenson did such a great job. Like, he did a phenomenal job. So, and in my mind, down the road, yes, I could see them recasting, but it hasn't been on my mind for a while, just because I didn't think they were gonna, touch that for of that role for a bit. Even though I think there was a lot, I knew there was a lot to do with that character still. I think that character has a long road to go, and it's gonna be really interesting to see where that goes. But I didn't think that that they would, do it so soon. But if they're doing season 2 of Ahsoka, you would have to have that character involved in some way. So, yeah.
No, Richard on YouTube says, where would you logically expect for these kids to pop up next? I feel like we see Wem link up with Jason Syndulla. He'd be absolutely floored to meet the son of a Jedi. It doesn't feel logically like they'd be anywhere, Like, I can't think of a situation unless they get like I said before, pulled off the planet, put on like Coruscant or Hosnian Prime or whatever, and kind of reinstituted in their society and clean up.
I don't think we're going to see these characters again for at least a few more years.
Unless
I don't think they would start filming a new project for at least a couple more years. I think they want to wait till the kids get a little bit older.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, at least the fan reception for the characters is good.
True.
I think that everyone's kind of been like, I love these characters, especially Neil. So
yeah,
you could definitely see them coming back. Just even if it's a cameo, I could definitely see them coming back.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see them at Celebration.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The Josh 21 on YouTube says, perhaps Lucasfilm and Disney do reveal the origins of Yoda species in the new Star Wars Museum they're building here in Los Angeles. We have a section of the museum, Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. So that Lucas Museum is not really a Star Wars museum. It's just a museum. There's going to be a small Star Wars section.
Yes.
I doubt we would get any big revelations there.
I don't think like hypothetically, if they were to do it, I don't think they would do it in a museum or in a book. Like it would be a big reveal that would happen on screen. But again, I think George Lucas will be taking that, that mystery with him to his grave. I don't think, that
No one can know.
Yeah. Adam Locke says the fact they teased Zeb right before Ahsoka and then didn't use him was infuriating. To me, it was just kind of disappointing because of the opportunity was there, and then everything they went in Rebels. But yeah,
come on.
yeah, I was like, do we think
Adam Locke
Wim will
says-
show? Yep, sorry.
Yeah, on YouTube, do we think Wim will show up later as an adult in another series, perhaps as a Jedi? Could also see Fern reprise as an adult in some sort of leadership role, senator, perhaps. I could see that. I could see those kids growing up, continue acting, and then they're re-brought in, and they can be their adult Star Wars character selves. That'd be kind of cool to see that eventually, if the opportunity presents itself.
Why not?
Mariana Arnold says, overall, this was such a fun show with great Easter eggs for the fans, an enjoyable new story for the casuals. I'm sad it's over, but excited for how they can and might use these characters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She also says 8.2 out of 10.
Okay.
The Mandarian says Yarp. Adam Locke says these young actors were fantastic. I agree with that. I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah.
The casting-
Particularly Fern for me.
Yeah, she did a really great job. And you can kind of tell that she has like some chops there.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of them.
All of them
as
are
a whole.
great.
Even Jude Law, I mean, he really kind of impressed, and he showed like that he was like an A-list actor in this role.
Yeah.
I can't really see who else could play that role the same way that he kind of did there.
Yeah. So there you go. For those who haven't heard, most of us will be over at MegaCon here in a couple of weeks in Orlando. We're pretty stoked about that. And then
All four
most
of us? We'll all be in Orlando at the same time.
That's true. And then there's also Moshe Eisley as well, which is always fun. That's fantastic. So if you're going to that con, stop by. We'll also be over at the Legion Sabers booth as well all weekend. So check us out. But yeah, I think that's about everything. David, anything we missed?
Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, thank you to everyone out there on Patreon. Thank you to everyone that commented on all of our videos, our pre-shows, our post-shows, our Easter egg shows. Thank you to everyone out there that has supported us during Skeleton Crew. It was another great, fun time again watching a Star Wars TV show, just like The Acolyte, just like Ahsoka, just like The Mandalorian. Lots of fun. We created lots of memories, and I hope everyone enjoyed it out there. So I guess signing off for our Skeleton Crew coverage here for Craig 5, Zach, James, Colin, Ted, Josh.
James wasn't even here.
Well, during this whole season.
Oh yeah, fair.
My name's David. May the Force be with you.
Always.
Until the next TV show.